Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with One Firefly and Automation Unplugged. We have episode 131 today. And looking up at the clock, today is Wednesday, July 29th. It's just a minute or two after 12:30. As I do every show, I'm going to check out my Facebook page and see if our feed is coming in live. See if technology is cooperating today. And it does looks like we have a gathering audience. I appreciate you guys and gals out there. Don't forget to drop into the comments and let me know where you're coming to us from. And as we jump into our interview here, if you have questions for our guest, don't be shy. Drop those into the comments, and I'll do my best to navigate the comments and put them on screen or pose them to our guest. So let's go ahead and let's get our guest introduced. So I'm bringing you Ryan Anderson, CEO at Bravas. And for those of you that are familiar with the show, you know that some shows back, I'm actually going to have Stephanie post in the comments, and she'll let us know what episode this was. I actually don't know what show, but I had the CMO, Nigel, on. He's the CMO of Bravas, and now we have the CEO of Bravas, Ryan Anderson. And super excited that he was able to make time. I already see that we've got Justin Johnson throwing us some kisses and hearty eyes and hugs. So appreciate that, Justin. Appreciate you tuning in. And we have our past guests and industry rock star out of Europe, Wim DeVos, saying he's looking forward to this show. And I agree, Wim. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and bring in Ryan, and let's see how he's doing. Give me a second. What's up, Ryan?
How you doing? Good to see you, Ron.
I'm good. I can't help but notice the trolls over. Those aren't trolls, or what? Those are garden gnomes. Is that on your
Garden
top
gnomes,
shelf
yes.
there?
Yes.
So please do tell. What's the story behind the garden gnomes?
Don't mistake those for any sort of a hobby or passion. My little sister collects garden gnomes and loves them, and I keep getting them as Christmas gifts, and I don't know where to put them, and I'm very sentimental, so they found a place in my office.
I love it. I love the collection of garden gnomes. So, Ryan, thanks for joining us today, man. I know we've been trying to work out schedules to make this happen, so it's exciting to have you on the show.
Yeah, great to be here. I appreciate it. And you mentioned Nigel, our CMO, when he went out to do our website and put it out to bid. I said, okay, great. You need to make sure it's fair and honest, and whoever wins it needs to win it fairly, and then just make sure Ron gets it.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that, but I love that version of the story.
I couldn't tell you that back then, but yeah.
No, Nigel made us sweat. I'll just say that he did his part. So, but
you earned it, and we're proud to be partners with you. So,
well, likewise, and we're honored to have worked with you guys now for years, and to be building your new site. And it's gonna, it's gonna be innovative and unique, and clearly Bravas, and it's gonna be really something to behold. So it's a big project. We're well into it at this point, but it's going to be some months more in the future before that's ready to unveil to the world. But world, stay tuned. That's coming. Ryan, where are you physically at? Where do you live? Where are you coming to us from here that we're live?
I'm physically in Overland Park, Kansas, and that's where headquarters for Bravas is. That's where I live. I was in Houston yesterday. So I'm still getting some travel done, but we're headquarters in Overland Park, and I'm happy to be home now.
How was traveling? How was getting on an airplane? I'll be honest, I haven't done it since I flew back from Vegas in March 11th from the Savant event.
They're mostly empty. I joke with people. There's more people in Costco than there are on a plane right now or at the airport. So.
Got it. Understood. All right. Now, for those that are watching or listening and they don't know what Bravas is, let's just get that out of the way. What is Bravas? How do you describe? that company?
Bravas is 15 independent integrators that decided to formalize as one company and engage in a private equity event where the private equity firm put up the money for the 15 selling owners to sell part of their company and retain some shares in the new company as Bravas. So we had a monetization event where the 15 owners got to cash out and at the same time invest a whole lot of money in being able to do big things and move forward. And since closing, we've done 2 acquisitions, one in Austin, Texas, and one in Denver, Colorado.
It's not a secret that we at One Firefly, we work with lots of companies around the country, around North America. And it's common that I will get the question posed to me because people will maybe know know One Firefly's affiliation as being a partner with Bravas for many years now, and they'll ask me seriously, and they'll pose the question to me. They'll say, "Hey, do you think this Bravas thing's going to work out?" And I find it a bit humorous, only because I'm like, "Well, what do you mean? Is it going to work out?" They're like, well, do you think it's going to come together and it's actually going to work and they're going to make it happen? I know of this story and this story and this story of these past failed attempts. And I was like, well, if you're judging it by meaning, did they merge successfully, have a financial event? I think you said it more eloquently just a moment ago, but a point where a buyer came in and purchased and owners got paid and they're successfully operating, I think the answer is 100% yes. So I don't understand the question, but I'll pose it to you maybe to get that out of the way. Do people ask you that question still? Is there any skepticism? And if so, how do you address it?
The obvious comment is this is VIA all over again. And, there's been a handful of attempts at this, VIA being the most famous or infamous one. The best analogy I like to give, because it's really easy for our industry to understand, is imagine you're working with a homeowner and you've gotten the contract and you've pre-wired the house and then you're putting the gear in and everybody has gotten to different stages of it. Via they got the contract, they put it together, they did a pre-wire. But we all understand the finish line in our event is a customer being very happy and paying you 100% and signing off that the system works. And that was the private equity event that we had. So, it's like asking the integrator, do you think that this other integrator is going to pull the job off? Well, what do you mean? The system's done. The homeowner's living there. He signed off on the system and has paid his bill 100%. What do you mean? Is it going to work? And that's kind of where we're at. We did it. We formed it. The private equity firm blessed it, signed off on it, paid us for it, and now we're invested to do bigger things and more things. And people like to kind of back their question up by saying, yeah, but is it going to fail? And it's like, well, the system's installed, it's done, it's working, the homeowner's happy. Yeah, but can't something go wrong? Sure, and we'll service it and fix it. So I would say that it's helpful to kind of understand from that context that event with the private equity firm was, there are multiple Harvard MBAs on that staff that went through the company, due diligence with CBIZ and national firms, going through the numbers, auditing everything. They looked at the business plan, signed off on it, blessed it, purchased it. The wire transfer went to our accounts. So we now have, it's interesting because we closed on a Friday and I went home and I couldn't wait to get to work on Monday, because for me, the goal was not the monetization event. I mean, don't get me wrong. I sure liked that wire transfer coming through. But it was what can be done, what we can do with this thing. And so that's what I'm super excited about. So I feel very undone because I know that this is just step one in what can be done nationally in this industry. But as far as will it work, it did.
And it is. Fair. I have lots of questions I want to ask you about Bravas and the industry and the state of the industry and all that jazz. But I always, as my guests know and my listeners know, I always like to start with your background. So you mind just filling it? Like, how did you land in this industry? And I know somewhere along the way you were a race car driver. And so don't forget to put some color highlights on any of those facts or figures. But yeah, if you could give us the background, that'd be cool.
So I often joke that I started my company accidentally, 16, 17 years ago now, where I was working for a store, a 5-store chain that was going out of business. And when they went out of business, I, had customers calling me in a panic, and I said, "Don't worry, I will personally take care of you. I'll make sure you're not left hanging." And so I finished those jobs out personally, and they recommended me to some of their friends, and I took care of those people, and then kept getting recommended to other people, and had some people helping me that I was paying, and my accountant, when I went to file taxes, who's also a client and become a friend, said, "Ryan, those friends that you're helping out, those are called customers, and the people helping you out that you're giving money to, those are called employees. We need some more paperwork here." So I joke about having accidentally started my company originally, but then it grew into to what it was, and eventually became sold to Bravas. Regarding the race car stuff, one of the things that I did as part of my marketing plan, if you will, is I got invited by one of my customers to join, a Ferrari event. And while I was there, I met a handful of other customers and realized this could be a good thing for my business. We have a great, unique Ferrari club here where they asked me if I was going to join, and I said, "Well, I don't have a Ferrari yet." And they said, "Well, that's the dumbest thing you can do is go buy a Ferrari, then join the club and find out what you should have bought." And so they took me in and helped me find the right one for me, and I bought it. And then a number of us started to kind of get into Ferrari CCR, which is the Challenge Club racing. It's the Ferrari Challenge Series, and it's the race cars. What they're done when they're done with Ferrari Challenge racing and they upgrade their cars, there's an opportunity there's a whole circuit for racing those cars that they just moved on from. And so I got involved in that, and we were sponsored by Ferrari of Houston, which is a Le Mans team, and got some real awesome, true Ferrari race car experience.
Well, you got to tell us a story from out there in the world racing a Ferrari. Like, what did you travel? Like, where would you go and do these events?
Yeah, so different tracks throughout America, NOLA, COTA. I've run COTA with Ferraris. I've run COTA with AMG, and my favorite track in America is Road America in Elkhart, Wisconsin, and that track has tried to kill me twice. And it's well known that if
That's
in the
not why
racing
you
world,
love
if you
it,
want,
right? It's not because of the near death experience, or is it because of that?
it requires an intense focus, because if you lose focus and you make a mistake, you might hit a wall at 140 miles an hour. So I love the adrenaline / required focus. I was heading into turn one at Road America, which is, I normally you're heading in there in the car I was in, an F430 Challenge at about 180 miles an hour, but my brakes felt soft coming into that last turn before the straightaway, and so I was only doing about 165, and my brake fluid had boiled and caused an air bubble, which meant that what my brake pedal went to the floor like it was a clutch. It did nothing. And so I did some panicking downshifting and pulled the emergency brake to actually slide that car around the corner and keep it on the track, and then limped into the pits. So there's been some cool moments, but that's my favorite track for sure.
Did you find religion or I don't know what the word is, but reintroduce yourself to religion after that experience? I mean,
Yeah.
you had to, did you stop racing after that? Was that the end of your day when that happened?
No, it was actually the beginning, and I had an instructor in the car, and he said, and he thought it was brake fade. He said, "Don't worry, keep pushing it. Your brakes will come back. They'll cool down and come back in time."
Wow. Holy bananas. That's crazy. So, big picture here. Obviously the world is being struck by this COVID thing, and there's all sorts of news, as to at least our little industry events, slowing down and stopping, or at least for now, all going virtual. But I'm also hearing, I don't want to say scuttlebutt, but I'm hearing the facts from the street, particularly here in North America, that integrators are generally busier right now than they have ever been. And that could be good or bad, because the question is, what are they busy doing? Are they busy doing things that are profitable, and or are they busy doing things that are unprofitable? And I know you have a position on that, because you're mindful as you're leading your organization. How is your level of busyness being measured? So how do you see what's going on right now from your perspective?
So, as what I'm doing and how I'm seeing it is different than the typical CI integrator, because as you know, we're very acquisition heavy. So I'm constantly talking to different acquisition candidates about what's happening, and busy means different things to different integrators. And the line in the sand that I ask is, are you busy doing service, or are you busy delivering new racks? And it can be a dangerous trap, because if you're very busy doing service calls, and this guy wants a new TV, and we're upgrading this network and adding access points and doing Zoom, and I sold an access network system that's this many $1,000, and those are great if they're profitable. A lot of companies don't know how to make their service departments profitable, and they're break even at best. And if you're busy doing that and not delivering racks, not delivering new systems, then it can be put in a pickle, because most companies are dependent on that big cash event and the profitability from that rack being delivered. And so it's just a cautionary tale, or public service announcement to the industry, really, to be watching out for what you define as busy. And if you're so busy doing service that you're not chasing those bigger deals, you're not landing those larger systems, those new sales, you won't know that until 6 to 8 months from now, when all of a sudden you're not as busy and those systems aren't being delivered, and that's where your cash crunch will come in. So, we're a combination of both, and we're watching that carefully to make sure that we're not too busy in one area to get to another area. And the other thing is to make sure your service departments are profitable, because that's an inevitable consequence of what's happening to us right now.
Just to pull that thread a little bit, when the 15 companies came together to form Bravas, I'm just going to make a broad assumption that some locations had more profitable service departments than others. And that seems logical that would be the case. Some had figured it out better than others. Have you guys taken on is there a project that's been tackled? And I know that you have a great COO in Jay at Minnesota. And have you guys taken on the project of trying to normalize or standardize the best aspects of the best performing service departments? And if you did that, how did you do that? Or where does that stand on your priority list to execute?
Yeah, so the real black and white answer is, whether your service department is proactive or reactive is really going to define your entire culture on service.
Okay.
And if you're reactive, then you're not set up to be able to take care of problems uh, and have any sense of control over your schedule, or your manpower, or your ability to deal with that, because you're completely reactive on when the customers call and how many call at once, and what size the issues are, and trying to scramble to get parts. So a proactive service department is putting together packages, letting the customer know that they need, they might need some help, or just going out and saying, hey, it's part of your package for us to check on your system, and giving an update, and be able to spot those problems ahead of time. And when you have 10 calls coming in at once, there's always a ebb and flow, and that's going to balance out when it's not as, you don't have as many calls, and that's the time that you want to be proactive, and you can actually feed your service department pipeline real easily with those calls as well. We've engaged with Parasol, and they have done a great job, and I would promote that company. We've been very happy with the departments that have been onboarded from Parasol, um, and so that's been a good thing for us, to be able to see those calls coming in, and we're using Parasol. We're happy with them, but I know there's other products out there. I'll say just the very event of having someone answer the phone that's dedicated to helping you out in that moment, as opposed to all of your techs getting calls on nights and weekends, really make a huge impact on your ability to manage those departments.
Makes sense. You mentioned that you've acquired 2 additional locations post the merging that became Bravas. I think this was back in September of 19, correct? That's when
Yep.
August or
August
September?
23rd. Yep. Yep.
August. And you've now acquired 2 additional businesses, and I know you're out there, and that's a big component of your time and energies are in this acquisition hunt. Can you talk about that? Like, what type of companies are you trying to acquire? What makes for a good target or a good type of company to join the Bravas family? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one was JJ Orion in Austin, Texas, which was a a different branch of the JJ Orion in Minneapolis, uh, Minnesota. That was part of the original deal, and their books were completely aligned. It was the easiest acquisition to do because they were all counting the same way, measuring the same way, and so that one was. Uh, More built to be acquired by us than it was the type of company that we're looking for, per se. The second one was Residential Systems out of Denver, Colorado, with Travis Leo, and absolutely a picture perfect candidate for us. Um, there are a couple things that we're looking for when we do acquisitions. One of them is, how well run the business is, and their reputation. Uh, our business model is to acquire and grow and acquire and grow. And we are not a fixer upper. We're not looking for barn finds that need all of our attention to get back on track. And there's hope here, and this could be rescue cases. Um, we're looking to pay the right money for a premium company that is well run. And after the acquisition, we can just let them continue to operate, because the way we're built is to take things like HR and insurance and things that no business owner really wants to deal with off of your plate, so you can go and sell more and install more. So a well-run company works really well from that perspective, as opposed to having to go in and fix things.
Got it. Is there any public information that you're allowed to share in terms of number of targets that maybe you want to add in 2020 or 2021, and or regions or territories that you're particularly eyeing? I mean, are you trying to fill in holes geographically across the country, or like what's some of the strategy, if you're able to share any of that?
Sure, of course. I want to do 50 acquisitions in 5 years, and obviously those will be staged where the last year is just an acquisition process and an onboarding process that's extremely streamlined, and we can do one a month with ease, and be set up for that. Market wise, there are markets that are obviously better than others, but our industry seems to have all these little pockets where you can be successful. It's not like a Louis Vuitton store where you'd be a fool to put one of those and pick your city that you want to, your small
Pick your
city you
small
want to make fun
town,
of.
right?
Yeah. um, but the number one thing that we want to look at is the ability to have market dominance. And if I pick up Joe's AV in XYZ city, and nobody likes him and nobody can stand him and he just doesn't get along with anybody, I've just shot myself in the foot for growing that market, and I've picked the wrong one from the beginning. Travis Leo is one of the most well-respected operators in our industry. And when I did market research and started to ask everybody I knew in that area, hey, if we bought you, who else would we want to buy? Everybody said Travis Leo Residential Systems, and that told me that if I buy that company first, my ability to grow that market is really strong because I'm not going to have pushback about him leading that market and being in charge of that market and really just being king of Colorado. And so that's one of the things we really want to look at because there's so much more economies of scale to be had in your ability to buy 5 or 6 companies and be completely market dominant in one city than it is trying to look like Verizon and get every city across America with a red dot on it.
Got it. Can you shed a light? And again, I know I there was no prep in advance me telling you what I was going to ask you, so you may or may not be able to answer this. But is there any public information you're allowed to share around how companies are valued? Those that are listening that are going, I never thought about selling, but maybe I should consider it. Is it, typically it would be a multiple on EBITDA. Is that what it is? You guys have a pegged ratio of what you're willing to pay, or does it depend?
Yeah, and we've actually got documentation for that to give interested parties that we can put forth. I would say there's a big list though, and I couldn't give a short answer. We do have it written up as a letter to send candidates, and you can give them a rundown. So there's not any gameplay or any poker play, but there's a lot of different factors. How many owners are in the business? If there's 5 owners in the business, splitting that pie up looks completely different than if it's a single owner. When there's 5 owners, that you split it all up and no one's getting a big enough check to be excited about it. When there's one owner, it's they get to keep all the money and there's one big check. So there's so many factors that go into it. But
Okay.
the other thing is profitability. We totally understand that your boat that's on the company books is not maybe being used for business and it's a lifestyle choice, and we add those back. So our valuations include add backs for lifestyle choices, or someone's spouse is on the payroll but they never come into the office and aren't involved. We understand that. We know how to add that back and come up with a fair evaluation that's truly representative.
What do you think our industry as a whole, the CI industry, is doing wrong?
Setting customer expectations. Like you said, I wasn't prepared for these questions, so I might have a more elegant answer on something like this. But I don't know that we're necessarily setting the customer's expectations properly about how everything's going to go, how change orders look, what might pop up and surprise them, and it's not documented. We tell the story very well to customers, but if you were to ask the customers across the country what to expect in dealing with an integrator, from the bidding process to the delivery and handoff and service department, it would be wildly different. It's the wild west. There's no standards. You can ask the luxury car industry, Mercedes, BMW, Lexus, what it should look like, and there's just simple basic things like pricing and negotiating on price and what that looks like. Not saying that I want our industry to price or look like that, but at least everybody knows. Sometimes you're going to pay sticker for a car, sometimes you're not. If it's been sitting on the lot for a while, everybody kind of has a sense of what to expect when they're buying a luxury car, and then everybody has expectations for delivering that car. It's going to have a full tank of gas. It's going to be clean. We don't have any of that, and that's standardized for our industry. There are certainly companies, but the standards are wildly different for what we call a luxury buying experience.
Is the purpose of Bravas to deliver that better customer experience, better than the average for the industry? So I guess it's what I'm asking is Bravas the answer? or is the goal to make Bravas the answer to help solve some of that pain?
Yeah, the goal is to make Bravas the answer. I don't want to be so arrogant to say that Bravas is the answer, because that would make the assumption that we've gotten every person in the company, every branch dialed in. It's been less than a year since we formed the company, and there's a lot of work to do. But you're kind of getting into the why there, which I know you and I have had this
Right.
discussion about.
I'm a
You
big
know,
Simon Sinek fan. I just finished his newest book called The Infinite Game, and I'm now going backwards through some of his legacy material. Eaters, what leaders eat last, and the like. Um, and so that led into the how, the what, and the why conversation. And I know you've recently gone through with your leadership team a lot of those internal discussions. So yeah, any light you can shed on that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so the quick recap of Simon's whole theory is most employees know what they do and how they do it, but they don't know why they do it. And that's not something that the company expels very well. And they understand why they do it. The customer wants a better TV. I'm installing a better TV. That's obvious. But the deeper why, the why do I go uh, to work in the morning? Why does this company exist? How are we different? And when we looked at the why for Bravas, what we realized is from a 15 location level, you've got to have your why be consistent across all locations. And as we really dug deep on this subject, we realized, as the only national player and the largest integrator in our industry, it's our responsibility to form the why for the whole industry, and not just for our company. And so I believe so heavily in collaboration. I believe that making all the other integrators in our industry better raises the tide for the waters for all. If no customer ever gets burned in our industry, man, selling is easier. Upgrades are easier. Everything's easier if every customer has a better experience. And so I think part of our why is that smart homes are an inevitable part of the future of luxury living. To think that you're going to buy a multi-million-dollar home and not have it be a smart home is foolish. The days of TVs without remote controls just don't exist, and the same thing
I
for our
would think
industry.
it would devalue the home at this point if you live in that neighborhood and you have that size house and you don't have a lighting control system. What do? Run through the house flipping all the switches? Like that just
Right,
seems
right.
nuts.
And our customers are so much better educated than, hey, this is a smart home. Look, I've got a Sonos sitting on the counter over here, and I've got a Nest thermostat. They know they have too many peers that have integrated smart homes. They know the difference between luxury and consumer products. So that's well defined at this point. So I think it's critical that a leader, who I believe is Bravas, step up and define. We have a responsibility in the industry to define the benchmark of customer expectations and experience. And I think every customer ought to be presented with, this is what you should expect, and this is how things should be done, and it's up to us to meet that standard. So our why is communicating to 300 employees. You're not going to work to install a TV for a rich person. You're defining what the luxury experience for our industry should look like. It is our responsibility to be the leader in that category. And for someone to come in and all over simplify it and have fun with it, to hang a TV and have the TV be crooked with fingerprints all over it, that's not acceptable. And it shouldn't be that you say, hey, I'm better than that guy. You should say, that's not a luxury experience. And I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, that's actually not what this industry does. And we don't look like that. And so we all, I think, I'm so passionate about forming this why for the industry. It's really our why, but I want to share it for anybody in the industry who has the same passion as me, to say, hey, this is what it looks like. This is what you should expect. And this is what we promise to deliver. And I charge all 300 of our employees to get up in the morning and say, hey, I'm actually defining a standard of a luxury smart home.
No, I think that's exciting. As you know, I've been in this business for the CI business for 20 years, and my early years were with vendors, and I'd be in local markets, usually originally in the Midwest and then in Florida, and I'd be on the receiving end of the referral where the upset customer would contact the manufacturer, and the manufacturer would put them in touch with me, the local boots on the ground, and I would hear of their frustrations and venting around often not always, not exclusively, but often, the failings of the local technology contracting business, the local integrator that just didn't finish that last 5%, that last 10%. And I think it clearly, when we as an industry figure this out, and I love that you guys are focusing on this, and the power and reach that Bravas has nationally is nothing short of awesome. I think that it makes, the industry better. Rising tide raises all ships. I think it makes the industry better, and the many thousands of technology contracting businesses that make up this industry. So I think
I've yet
that's exciting.
I've yet to meet somebody in our industry that says, if I can get a really solid deposit and then just get myself to the point where they've paid for the equipment, I'm good. Whether or not the system comes out nice or the customer's happy, not really my concern. As long as I've gotten the majority of my money, I'm happy. I just haven't met that person yet. Haven't seen that person yet. And yet we hear those stories all the time. We see that happening. So, um, our industry shouldn't be about telling a good story and saying the right thing. Our industry should be about doing and executing.
Well, from your experience as racing cars, if you don't execute in that corner at 140 miles an hour, you're dead. You're in the
Yeah.
wall. And so it's execution or die. And I think that, I maybe not to that extreme, but I follow some of those beliefs in the way I run my company. And I've got an awesome team and a great culture. And so it helps when you tie all that together. But that's exciting for me to hear that you guys are focused on that. Just to run through, you've mentioned some of these names. What is the leadership team at Bravas? What are maybe the senior leadership? What are the roles, and who are those players?
So as you mentioned, Jay Vandermeid is the COO, and really the workhorse behind this company, and we couldn't function without him. And it was the greatest meeting ever, because I sat with Jay, and I said, let me see if I'm hearing you right. You're willing to go do all the work in the background and then let me stand on stage and take credit? He was like, yeah, that's what I'm signing on for. I was like, this is perfect. I love this. You're hired.
Sounds like a great team
Um,
player. At
he
One
really
Firefly, that's my Taylor Whipple. So I stand out on stage and I do these, but Taylor's actually running behind the scenes, running the business. So
that's exactly right. So he's the unsung hero of Bravas, that's behind the scenes, and I can't speak highly enough about how much everybody respects him, how much everybody listens to him, and I wouldn't be able to function without him being able to handle all of the branches the way he does. Um, our CFO is Doug Klein, and really this is a guy with a resume that's reported to public companies. Um, as any good CFO does, he drives me up the wall, because there's no T's uncrossed, there's no I's not dotted. He thinks through everything so diligently, and true mastery of the numbers, and he's half attorney at that too. So really, really brilliant, brilliant individual. And then Nigel Dessau is our CMO, and he's got one of my favorite stories that you hadn't heard, right?
no,
Even
yeah,
though
give
you've
it
been
to me.
working with him.
I said save it. I want to hear it live. So what do you got?
He's not a big self promoter, so as much interaction as you've had with him, I tell the story. He doesn't, but he was the chief marketing officer for AMD, and he's got a deep resume with IBM and Sun Microsystems, but AMD, the processor company out of Austin, Texas, which is where he lives. He was
That's like the competitor to Intel.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And so He was their chief marketing officer, and he came to us with from Presidio, our PE firm, and said, hey, we think you need a CMO. We want to help with that. Here's a guy that can kind of help define that role and help you find that search. So we engaged with Nigel as a consultant to help define what that looks like, what all our needs are, put the job spec together, and then identify the candidate. And we get far enough along, and Nigel says, hey, I want the job. And I what do you mean you want the job? I mean, this is so far beneath your resume. The pay is insulting to you. It doesn't even make sense. And he said, listen, I've gotten far enough along in my career financially that I'm good with the pay. Don't worry about that. To me, it's more about these monumental things, and you've got something on the table that very few CMOs get to experience. Most CMOs get into an industry and it's already been defined. The marketing, the vision, the view, the customer perceptions, they're already there. For you, it's been individual CI integrators defining that for individual customers, and nobody's done this on a national scale. I love the idea of walking into this industry and being able to define nationally what a custom luxury integrator is, what it looks like, and he said that to me, just having complete white space to define an industry is more exciting than any other opportunity to me. And that's what he's doing, and he's just phenomenal at it, and it's really exciting to watch him work.
Yeah, I feel honored. I get to work with he and my team get to work with him almost weekly at this point with all the various projects going on, and the way he approaches everything, the projects, the discussions, the industry, the value proposition, the why. He's coming at it sideways with an entirely new perspective that is it's refreshing. And he challenges me and he challenges my team. And I love that. I love that I'm hearing different perspectives, and we challenge him as well. And so it's constructive both ways. And I'm excited for you, and I know that you guys are excited to have his big, what you call it, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 marketing experience on the team. I think that's pretty neat, as you guys are really defining the luxury brand for consumer electronics and consumer integration. I think it's powerful. Ryan, how would you describe your leadership style? So you have a company with 300 employees, and you're the captain steering the ship. And I know you have a fantastic leadership team and a great set of business owner operators that I think the majority of them are still engaged running their local operations. How do you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style has had to evolve and had to change a lot throughout this process, because the forefront changed. What I needed to be as a leader at the time has changed. I've always been the collaborative type. If you can get your programmer, your installer, your project manager, and the customer all on the same page, great things will happen. And so high communication, high collaboration, and that put me in a really good position to be, the CEO before Bravas was formally formed, and to be the
That was
interim
voted by your
CEO.
peers, right? That's how that went
Yeah,
down.
that's right. And so in that position, to your point, if they didn't like the way I was handling things, they could just replace me and say, yeah, we need a new CEO. So it required a lot of collaboration. It required a lot of alignment. There was so much alignment that was needed to get everyone. There was a lot of voting. There was a lot of, getting everyone on the table. And, we might have a vote and they got, 12 yeses and two nos, plus my vote, whatever. And I'd hang up and I'd call the two no's and I'd say, you lost, but how do we get you comfortable? Is there a finer point to why you voted no that we could swing around? And being CEO of the a 300 person company, there's no bandwidth to take a vote of 300 people or 15 people and say, hey, Let's talk about each and every decision, each and every vote. And so we've really had to change from a leadership style from collaboration and communication to true executive leadership, of having a vision, having a plan, still getting everyone to buy in on it, but not from a voting process, but from an excitement process. And I still
Getting
have
behind the
some.
decisions that have been made and supporting them and driving the team forward.
Right, right. And I still have what some large executives would call some bad habits. Trying to get too much collaboration, too much, buy-in, and just be bold and move forward. So if that's a bad habit I still have, then I'm happy with it, because our team has meant the world to me in putting this together and everything that we've done. But it's really, really an impressive shout out to the ownership group that came together, because they have bought into the leadership team. They're bought into what we're doing, and they aren't challenging that. They aren't saying, "Hey, I disagree. I'm digging my heels in." And the ability to take off your entrepreneur hat and put on a general manager hat, um, is a difficult one, because you're giving up control. Now, granted, you're getting paid millions of dollars to give up control, so that's kind of nice. But it's still a personality shift, and
It's still
and
got
I
to be hard
applaud.
for someone that's been running their own business for, in some cases, decades to now
Yeah,
take
right.
direction from someone else. That's hard.
Um, and I absolutely applaud the buy-in to Bravas and the belief and doing that. They've done a fantastic job of that. And the Jay gets a lot of credit for that, because they are the ones that they all directly report to him, and he's leading that group. And I don't get these backdoor phone calls saying, "Hey, I disagree with this," or "I disagree with that," and they see improvement in the way he's doing things. They completely trust and have earned his buy-in in his decision making. And quite frankly, it's been a relief to let go for a lot of them. They just go sell and run their branch and aren't negotiating health insurance and van insurance. And there's the most successful branches are the ones that go, "Awesome, great, you got this. I'm going to go do what I'm good at,
I'm going to go
selling and
sell and
installing
integrate.
electronics." Yeah, yeah. So it's really just a wonderful setup. But there's a little bit of a mind shift from the entrepreneur. And so my leadership style, to answer your question in the longest way possible, apparently, is it's continuously changing as what's needed for the direction of the company.
I love it. I love it. Well, I am proud of you, Ryan, and what you have been able to do as CEO. And that's through the vote of confidence of your peers being elected as CEO and running the company. And from everything I hear, things are you guys are weathering the storm called COVID and charting new courses. So it's exciting. How can folks that are watching or listening be in touch with you and or Bravas? Where would you direct people that might want to reach out?
So my email address is ryan.anderson@bravas.com. That's, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm, open to that, and can direct you. And then, if you've got operational questions, I can direct you to the right place for that. I have such a passion for this industry and for lifting up this industry.
Did I
At
get that
first, it
right? I just
was,
put it on
yep,
screen.
nailed it.
Okay.
At first it was an exit strategy when this was first formed, and I said, I'm not interested, because I'm 40 years old. I'm not interested in exiting. I love this industry. I'm too passionate about it, um, and the check would have to be so ridiculous that I, uh, wouldn't want to be, whatever. So I love what we're doing and believe in it so much that whatever we can do to rise the tide for everyone, whatever we can do to be better, um, would be awesome. One of the things that we're talking about, which somebody in our organization is going to shoot me for saying this on live on your show, but you got to have something exciting, right? That I wasn't
That's
supposed
it.
to
Yeah,
say.
I'd like a little bit of
Um,
fireworks.
we're When we first formed Bravas, we had the Bravas program, and we had the I forget what the terminology was for at the time, but somebody who was wanting to follow Bravas and be part
I
of it, but
remember
not
that
wanting
there
to
was
sell
like an
their company. Yeah,
associate level, and
it was an
you.
associate level. That was it. Yep,
I
member and
remember that.
associate member. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm looking at putting together is an affiliate program. And the affiliate program is we're referring jobs right now because we're doing national events, we're getting national leads. We do the Tech Home Builder Show, and I'm handed business cards from people, or I'm giving my business card out, and it's like, well, are you in Phoenix? I'm not in Phoenix right now, but I can tell you who I would like to buy in Phoenix, and that should tell you what company has the best reputation and the best customer service, because we don't fix companies, we buy the best companies. And I'm getting these phone calls going, why are you sending me leads? Because we're trying to do stuff nationally. We're trying to build stuff nationally. And, I'm looking at putting that affiliate program back together, so that I can stand in front of any customer anywhere in the country and say, I either have a Bravas or have a Bravas approved location. And part of that affiliate program is picking the right SKU mix and vendors, and using our horsepower to say, you got to get this right, and you've got to be fair, and you've got to take care of these issues. It's being able to say, these are best practices, these are the standards. You have to buy into the why. So it's way too early for me to talk about, but that's something I'm very passionate about for our industry. Is maybe you don't want to sell your company, but you really want to kind of follow along and get some of the horsepower, get some of the knowledge, the collaboration, be part of that. And so we're toying with that, but feel free to reach out to me, and if you've got a certain passion for that, and we can kind of one off a program, or if there's 10 or 12 interested companies across there, we can kind of vet that out and look at kind of getting that started a little faster.
No, that's exciting. People to jump on the Bravas train. You're going places, so you're giving them options. You don't have to be all in or not in, but there's going to be tiered levels. It sounds like, so that's pretty cool. Ryan, I know that one of my responsibilities here was to get you out of here so you could get to your meeting, which is off site. And I know I've already run over a little bit of the timeline you gave me. So I'm going to call it there. And I want to thank you genuinely for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with me here on Automation Unplugged. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I don't want to cut anything short. Is there anything that you feel didn't get covered and is important? If you've got one more on your hit list.
You can make the time. I can throw
Yeah.
one more at you.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go down my list. Well, something I was curious about, because of the size and influence that your organization has across the country and kind of what you affect and impact. We're dealing with a really strange time, strangest time I can remember as it relates to the lack of any industry events, right? So CEDIA is canceled. It's gone virtual. CES just announced the other day that they are going virtual. They announced it yesterday. There's going to be no live event. It's going to be all virtual. All the buying group events I'm aware of are either canceled or gone virtual. And so all of this peer-to-peer, the benefits of events, as you and I have talked many times over the years, is simply being in one place and being able to handle so many different agenda items that you need to address with so many vendors, and you got everyone in the same building. So you can go get a lot of face-to-face meaningful work done at an event. And those aren't going to happen, certainly for the next 6 months, maybe longer. What do you think about that? What is Bravas doing about that? Or how are you thinking about this new era of no events?
Well, from a purely greedy perspective, uh, I brought 70 people to CEDIA last year, and that was expensive. So I'm saving a lot of money. And for our industry, it's always been a very rewarding type of thing that you do. You bring your top salesperson, your top programmer, your top technician, um, and it's very rewarding. And so I wanted to maintain that system and that culture. So this year we were looking at, okay, here's the budget for bringing 50 people instead of 70, who doesn't get to go, and we got to figure things out. When CEDIA got canceled, as sad as it was, because I'm so passionate about that event and love that event, uh, it was a chance for us to sit back and recalibrate and say, okay, what happens at CEDIA, and how do we need to utilize it? And for the average integrator, it's, pick vendor X that you want to go see, and you go, well, their tech support is terrible. I need to talk about that. I need some marketing help because they're not taking care of this. I need to talk. This is my opportunity to talk about a buying program. I need to talk to this engineer about a large job and what's going on. And that one integrator can get 7 meetings done face to face in person at a CEDIA booth. And that's fantastic. Like, that's really important, really critical, and might be the difference between that vendor losing that integrator or keeping them. So it was important for everyone. For us, we've really kind of departmentalized, where the technicians are talking to each other, the programmers have their forums, design and engineering have their forums, salespeople have theirs, and so we're taking this opportunity to restructure our events towards, well, what if we have an event just for all of the programmers where they get together and they sit in a room? That programmer you might bring to CEDIA, and they get to talk to the control system that they're talking to, and then take a look at another control system perhaps. And that's 2 hours of pretty valuable time. And then it's a lot of team building for 2 days, or 3 days, however long you're there. And that's important. But what if that programmer had 2 solid days with all the programmers across the country, and they got together and not just compare their companies, but they're all doing the same thing. They're all marching to the same drum, and they can say, what can we do? What can we accomplish together? What can be built? We had our sales summit, Ron, which I know you know about, in January, and to put 56 salespeople in a room together, the energy was so high, so fantastic. Everybody was on fire and excited. And we have found that people get way more excited when it's centered around what they need and their specific jobs and their specific needs than it is, being able to carve out an hour here or there for that thing you really need to get done. And I think vendors may see this a little differently too. I think we're going to see a lot of changes as people decide to recalibrate and take this year and say, why am I going? Who am I sending? Are these the right trips? Is it everybody in the company goes on one trip? Should I be sending, text to trainings instead of CEDIA, and the way that looks? So we'll see how it goes. I think CEDIA is a wonderful thing, and I hope it doesn't go away. But CEDIA might look at how they do that event and say, hey, we're going to be more job focused instead of more everybody go talk to the vendors focused.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know we just had our vendor selection with CEDIA just a week or two ago, and we were picking out our physical booth location for the Indianapolis-based CEDIA event in 2021. And it's definitely lots of conversations. And to your point, I'm not going to lie, as much as I want to see everybody, and CEDIA for One Firefly is one of our biggest lead gen events of the year. And it has been since our founding, since we started attending the show. And so there's a bit of concern there for sure. At the same time, the expense is fantastic. So not being at the show and the amount of savings and that flows to the bottom line, I'm not going to lie, that's kind of a pleasant silver lining to the cancellation of these events. It's increased the bottom line a little bit, which has been nice. Well, Ryan, it's been a pleasure, buddy. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, my friend. And I wish you and the team there at Bravas nothing but continued success.
Thank you so much, Ron. This is your passion for the industry is inspiring. I see a lot of the comments over here. I appreciate the nice comments. I tried to type. It's turned off for me probably for
you know what? You're going to be able to go into Facebook as soon as I'll click off here in just a second, and then you can go into the comments and you can reply to everyone. But in the case of Justin, I've just got to put his comment on the screen just because everyone's going to love it. Ryan is so hot.
Oh yeah.
So
the feeling is mutual, Justin. I appreciate it.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll close on that note. Ryan is so hot. All right, buddy. Talk soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, folks, there you have it. Show number 131 with the one and only Ryan Anderson, CEO at Bravas. I appreciate all of you tuning in and commenting. And sorry, I wasn't putting the comments up on the screen as I normally do. I've been having trouble with my software. It loaded all of those in actually like in a flood right here in the last minute or so, which is why Ryan saw them. He made the comment because the screen just filled up with all the comments. So we're going to try to, Stephanie and Allison and I will try to figure out our software and try to make that work a little bit better here in the future. But in the meantime, if you have not already done so, don't forget to go and subscribe to the Automation Unplugged podcast. Download that on Apple Podcast. Just do a search and you'll find it. Subscribe. You'll see all of our shows. Right now, we're in a week, about a show a week cadence, kind of back to normal for us. And it's frankly been a little more manageable. And on that note, if you need anything from the team at One Firefly, we're here to help. And I will see you guys and gals next time. Thank you.